Hi, Filmenics! Thanks for tuning in. Today we have a very, very special guest. We have Steve Kunes. And Steve, oh my gosh, you probably have watched every show that he's ever been part of. Steve is known for his work on some of the most iconic sitcoms of the last decades, which includes Kate and Allie, Cheers, Love Boat, South Park, and also a 5-year stint monologue writer for Johnny Carson. We got to talk about that. And currently, he's the creator and executive producer of Over My Dead Body. So let's welcome Steve Kunes to the show. Hi, Steve.
Hey, how are you, Marilyn? I
Is it-
just joined. I just want to get this out of the way. I'm officially a film addict. So,
and that's okay because you have a lot of TV shows, but hey.
well, I was inspired by films, and I still am. So, I just absolutely love this podcast. I listen to it all the time.
Thank you. And thanks to our listeners for making it a hit. We appreciate all our listeners for listening in. And Stephen, is it Stephen or Steve? Do you like Stephen or Steve or
Well, when I was out back, coming home from school, my mom wanted to call me to dinner. She would yell at the top of her lungs, "Steven!" So most people call me Steven, and all the neighbors got to hear that. I guess that'd be the answer to the question. You can call me whatever you want.
Great. And Stephen, where are we recording live with you today?
Right now, I'm actually visiting my parents in Newtown, Pennsylvania. I live in Santa Barbara, but I come back and forth a lot. I'm fortunate to have my parents still here. My mom is 89. My dad is 97.
Oh,
So
that's lovely. Yeah.
That's what I'm doing. And it's the best of both worlds. I go back and forth.
Yeah. And so where did you grow up? Did you grow up in LA then, or?
I grew up in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, and watched a lot of television, obviously, and went to New York University and studied literature, which was extremely practical for the real world, and started writing short stories. And at the age of 26, I got a call, which I thought was a prank call. It was from Norman Lear, the TV producer of All in the Family and everything else, Jefferson, Maude. And he had read some of the stories and asked, would you like to write for television? So I grew up in Pennsylvania, went to New York. And when I was 26, the next thing I knew, I was out in Los Angeles for the next 4 decades. And, that's where I am pretty much now, a little bit north of LA.
Well, I'm gonna have to ask you. So, as a kid, in Pennsylvania, like, what was some of your childhood favorite films?
My favorite film, it sounds like everybody's favorite film. But I really like The Wizard of Oz. My favorite film of all time is Casablanca. Some people just go, I don't get it. I think it's corny. Well, of course it's corny, but it's just like this great film. And those two films. And then I got into the films from, I like good, a little snappy dialogue. So To Have and Have Not is a wonderful film. Of course, the line, what we have here is a failure to communicate, from Cool Hand Luke, written by Frank Pearson, who I actually got a chance to meet.
Oh, incredible.
Before he died. And I love the dialogue from The Honeymooners and The Lucy Show. And so for me, great films have always had great dialogue. More so, some people just like action only, which is fine. But I really like the dialogue.
So you're a little kid. You're with your mom and dad, and you're in Pennsylvania, and you're watching The Wizard of Oz. Wizard of Oz with that little dog, and I was really scared with those monkeys. I was really scared when those came out. I was like, oh, those are terrifying.
I was scared. The Munchkins, and then the the witch, and I go, oh my God, this is scary.
Yeah.
And now I laugh when I see, but still, it's a wonderful story. And let me say, I moved on though to The Graduate. I love that movie. I love Midnight Cowboy, probably aside from Casablanca, is my favorite movie. I think that was just wonderfully done. And Forrest, then we move on. Forrest Gump, of course. If somebody says they don't like Forrest Gump, I think they're actually not worth knowing. So that's what I've never heard of anybody that didn't like Forrest Gump.
Oh yeah, I mean, run, Forrest, run, and like,
Run and the
yeah.
chocolates and the whole thing.
Life is like a box of chocolates. My neighbor just treated me to dessert and coffee yesterday because I was actually crying and I was upset just because sometimes you have those days where you're like, am I ever gonna make it? And then so she like treats me, and my favorite lemon blueberry muffin at Miss Melbourne Coffee wasn't there, and so she says, oh, why don't you get one of both? And I go, oh my gosh, life is like a box of chocolates or muffins.
Right.
I got two.
Right. Yeah. So I like quirky movies. I loved My Dinner with Andre.
Oh.
Very difficult to sustain a story with just two people sitting at a table, even in the theater. That's hard. But I think the material was so out there. It was not just that it kept your interest. I saw it recently. I still think it was about 15 minutes too long. But other than that, after 40 years, still, I still just love that. And I'm glad it was the success that it was.
And we were talking, like, we talked a little bit before the podcast, and I worked for Erwin Winkler, one of the producers of Rocky, and he had this big library in his office of all the classic black and white films, and that's when I watched the Casablancas, and I didn't even know all the actors back then, and I just got to watch. I took like 3 videotapes every night that I went home, and I just watched all of them. And we were talking like, were we talking about Jackie Gleason and all the guys, the Groucho Marx and the Three Stooges and oh my gosh, Chaplin, and because you started writing short stories. So did anything inspire you? Like, how did you start writing these short stories? You're in Pennsylvania. You're not even in LA.
Well, what happened was I was in New York at the time. I had gone to college there, and there's really no television done in New York except for news and maybe Good Morning America. I don't even think there was a game show. Soap operas. There were some soap operas there, but the magazines, that was a way to break in. And I just started writing nonfiction articles. I actually, here's what happened. I'm a senior. I had a lot of more moxie probably than I have now. I wrote a letter to Dustin Hoffman when I was a senior in college, and telling him, he's my favorite actor. It wasn't really like a fan letter. It was, but I did talk about The Graduate, and I talked about how different that was from Midnight Cowboy. And I said, I'm a senior at NYU, blah, 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 whatever. And I got a call from his assistant. Her name was Chloe. At the time, he was shooting Kramer versus Kramer. And he was in the middle of getting a divorce, oddly enough, and the movie's about a custody battle, whatever. And he invited me to come to a place called Magna Sound Studios up on, I think it was 57th Street, or isn't it 50s? And I met with him, had lunch. We ended up taking a cab. He had to meet somebody downtown, and he just come along with me. At the time, he was only 40 years old, and I'll never forget. It was during the summer, and Pete Rose was on a hitting streak for the Reds. I guess it was the Reds, and he had the most hits. Like, he got a hit in every. I'm making this part up because I can't remember the statistics, but he got a hit in every game, like 40 games in a row or whatever it was. And so we were talking about this. We ended up becoming friends to this day, like lifelong friends. But I wrote this guy a letter, and that really got me not only infused with I would say massive enthusiasm for the entertainment industry, but it humanized the people that I pictured in it, and it made me realize that my dreams were real, because when you see somebody's name in the credits, and then someday you meet them and you go, oh, I know, you're the sound engineer. I remember, I recognize your name. I see it all the time. You're the DP, and that I'm still fascinated with that to this day. But that's how I got. I I really feel I was energized. I was going to go to law school, and just what the world needs, another lawyer, right? Although my daughter just became a lawyer.
Oh,
And
congratulations.
yes, so that's what she's doing. And I started writing short stories. I wrote little interviews with people, kind of like talk of the town type things, like a guy who has a hot dog cart on Madison and 79, things like that. And I guess the dialogue was so real that's what, according to Norman, and he said that is the trick to writing. He said you can go to film school, you can teach people story structure, you can sit with your friends and say what happens next, and if it's boring, you take it out and you put some. You can make up a story, but to actually make characters sound real, like, you really have to focus on the dialogue. And so that's, unbeknownst to me, that's what I was doing, and that's how I got in. Norman wasn't. Dustin wasn't my only letter. I go, wow, if it worked with Dustin, it might work with William Goldman. He's like my favorite screenwriter, and it did. He wrote this nice. We didn't get together for 10 years, but he wrote me this nice note back, and then about 10 years later, I was at a Writers Guild seminar or screening or something in LA, and he happened to be there. I said, I wrote a letter to you back. He got a lot of letters, I'm sure, but that I just putting a face, or actually meeting a person whose name you see in the credits when you're a kid sitting, like you said, in Pennsylvania, and you'll see, like, who are these people and where is it done? And it's like that movie that they just did, Being the Ricardos, that Aaron Sorkin did. And he really froze time and took people back to old Hollywood with Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz. And you see the name Jess Oppenheimer and who created it. I ended up buying a used car from Jess Oppenheimer before he died. And I didn't even know who he was.
Oh, wow.
Back in the 80s. Well, I found out, but that was kind of, I think everybody might feel that way when you see these. Go, what are all these credits for? Some people can't. They just walk out in the middle. I have never walked out in the middle of a credit roll in my life.
Oh my God.
These are the people that
made the film. It takes a team. It takes a village.
It takes an awful lot of people.
Well, I want to. Can we? Because everyone's probably going, ask the question. He just wrote a letter to Dustin Hoffman, and we kind of just listened to him patiently. Wait, we got to go back to the Dustin Hoffman meeting. Did he call you? His office called you? Hello.
His assistant. Her name was Chloe. I remember that because I don't think I've ever met anybody named Chloe. And he had a company at the time called Sweet Wall Productions, and I went. He said, well, and that's one of the names as a producers of Kramer, and I think Tootsie as well. And he said, yeah, he would love to meet you. It was like literally those words. He would love to meet you, and I think it helped that I was a student. So.
And you,
so anyway,
did you first you thought it was a prank, or did you oh my gosh, somebody answered?
No, I didn't think that was a prank. I thought Norman Lear was the prank.
Oh, Norman Lear was the prank. Okay.
Well, Norman Lear's, Norman read your stories and wants to know if you want to write for TV, and I'm thinking, which one of my college buddies is this? They're like, there's no way. But he got him on the phone, flew me to California. I was married at the time, and my son was. He was about 2 months away from being born. I think I had $400 to my name, and I was about to become a father, living in an apartment that was 30 feet by 10 feet in Manhattan. And the next thing you know, I was at an office on the Universal lot, and I was writing for Norman Lear.
Oh my
I mean,
God.
I don't know
Holy
anybody that's
smokes.
had a Cinderella story. I think Lauren Bacall somebody was discovered sitting at a counter. But other than that, as a writer, I don't think I've ever heard that story.
I'm just blown away. I'm just blown away. I'm still on Dustin Hoffman. I want to know where you guys went to lunch. Do you remember?
It was a coffee shop. I know where it was. It was on Madison and 78th. It was a coffee shop, and we're talking, and I noticed that like there's 100 people looking at us, and I go, what do we do? Like, why is everybody looking? And it hits me like, oh yeah, he's like a major star. Everybody's looking at him. You know, I've had that happen since, but I was so naive that I had no idea what people were looking at.
Oh.
It wasn't the guy that just did The Graduate and Midnight Cowboy and Papillon. It was just like, hey, what? Did somebody spill something, or
That's called homework paying off. Your two favorite films, Midnight Cowboy and The Graduate. Or by the way, I love those as well. I mean, everyone loves Dustin Hoffman. I mean, he answers your letter that you wrote, and then you're sitting having coffee or lunch in New York on Madison Avenue. Everyone's staring at you. Do you remember that you talked about anything? Like, I mean, this is a special moment in time.
He told me, he said that he felt that Midnight Cowboy was his. Well, this is up until then, but he said Midnight Cowboy was the best film, his favorite film that he had done. But The Graduate was the most complete film, and I guess he meant. I don't know how to explain it. Complete, the
As
most
an artist,
story-wise. He felt that it was. I'm just quoting him, the most complete film. It's really not that complete because they go off on the bus at the end and you don't know what's going to happen to them. They even talked about doing a sequel, but Mike Nichols didn't want to do it.
I was really sad at the end.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to think. Well, no, The Graduate was had he marries her at the end. You're thinking of Midnight Cowboy?
Yeah.
He actually dies. What a great ending, though.
Oh.
I mean, in a horrible way. It's but true to life. So that certainly gives me an affinity for Dustin, and he's really just like, I hope maybe he'll come on your podcast. He's really
I'd love that. Yes.
very very entertaining. He reads about 15 newspapers a day. Now we have the internet, so I'm sure he gets stuff there. But he used to go. That's what we did. It was next to a newsstand, and that's what. And he went and I bought up the London Times, the LA, and he was very well informed. And
wow, incredible. And then our audience would like definitely love that treat, right?
Right.
Hit those 5 stars with reviews. Yes, Dustin Hoffman, come on the show. Thank you, Stephen Kunes.
Yeah, he was.
So you tell all your friends. And so I want to go back to, like, you were writing these stories about the hot dog vendor. Did you have a favorite hot dog vendor in New York?
I did have a guy named Richard Allen. I've been trying to track him down. He's probably died.
Oh.
But it's not an easy name to track. A lot of people named Richard Allen. But he was good to the student. Like, if you didn't have any money, he would just give you a hot dog. And, but you didn't have to tell him you didn't have any money. He could take a look at you and just would know, here, have a hot dog. Like he knew, and he was at Washington Square Park, right outside the NYU library, where all of the film students were. In fact, my first college roommate was Chris Columbus, who did the Harry Potter and Home Alone.
Wow.
He wrote Gremlins in our dorm room.
Oh, I love Gremlins. He wrote it in
So,
your dorm room.
well, he wrote like that, like one of the drafts, or probably the
Oh,
first draft.
what was he like?
Uh,
Was he fun? Like did you
you
knew him?
you would never guess in a million years that he'd become a famous movie director. He looked like I thought he was going to go and sell like Allstate or something.
Oh
He
wow.
was very very like, but like the next thing he did, uh, well, Home Alone was the first big movie he did, but he's been doing
Love
one
those
thing
films.
after another forever. So
Oh, wow. And
did the first few Harry Potters
oh my goodness.
as well. All I remember is that everybody would just go, "Why would your parents name you if your name's Columbus? Like, aren't you just Chris Columbus?" But
That's cute. It's kind of cute, right? My dog's name is Thursday, as I told you.
right.
So
That's not a bad name.
yeah, so you're writing these short pieces for because back then, like all the magazines, and then
Right.
so you get a call from Norman Lear, and you thought it was like one of your buddies, and then you're flown
Right.
out to LA. That's
Yeah, that
incredible.
was it was a Wednesday, the day before St. Patrick's Day, March 16th, 1983. And I'm flown out there, and I bring my pregnant wife with me, which I probably shouldn't have done because she was 7 months pregnant. She's sitting in the lobby. Norman Lear hired. He said, I don't know what we're gonna do with you. We have 8 shows on the air, but we'll find a place for you. I wasn't the only one. Every so often, he hires young writers and he pairs them with old writers, like as a mentor. And so you really learn the craft from them. But he likes that, and he hadn't done this in a number of years. So he hired a guy named Seth Greenland, a person named Jose Rivera, me, and Mark Andrus. And Mark ended up writing the movie As Good as It Gets, um, which that's another favorite of mine. And we were actually clueless. We had really never written television scripts before. We're all in our mid-20s, and so he would pair us up with one guy. His name was George Tibbles, uh, who had done like Dick Van Dyke,
Oh my
the old
goodness.
My Three Sons,
Oh
like
my
whatever.
god.
These are all people like, and all, of course, All in the Family, the Jeffersons, and we would learn from. It's like a master class every day, and that, to my knowledge, I've never heard of anybody else doing that. Norman Lear is the only person who would hire older writers that people didn't want anymore because they thought, oh, they're too old, even though they're like wrote all the classic shows, with young writers that had zero experience. And I think I wish more people would learn from him.
Yes,
But
please give older people a chance, and older new people that
and
has never had a chance.
by the way, older in Hollywood, they say that's over 40. You're considered old. I mean, as far as you would never apply that same theory to a surgeon. You would never want to say, I want the newest, fresh surgeon. You want somebody that has like 20 years experience.
Definitely, definitely. And I love that, like, and that's why he was probably like as successful as is because he's a great business guy. He knows that the story is the most important thing, and veteran writers of those top iconic shows. And yes, you need some fresh people too, whatever age it is. But there's people that don't get the chances unless you get lucky to get in the door. Like if you don't have any credits and you're older, sometimes you see these young people there's programs for young people with no credits, but there's no programs for older people who have been working and going to film festivals, maybe doing their films independently, getting clout that way, but they still aren't produced. So, but like, hopefully that changes and there's more doors open. And I'm a female, so I'm like, I had some meetings like, so you haven't been produced yet. And you're like, oh no, that
Right.
question. Oh, so
I didn't have to deal with that part of it, but I have a friend named Sid Davis. He's like me, and I'm 65, so he's got to be around the same age. And he spent his whole life, or his career, his whole life, working, I think, for Continental Airlines it was, and he worked in the baggage department. Now he went to college, and he wasn't, I don't think, just loading the bags. He was in charge, but of how they're administered or whatever. The whole, we had people under him and baggage department, and his goal in life was to be a stand-up comedian. But so he retires in his 50s. He was able to retire, and he was going to embark on this stand-up career. And I told him, I said, why don't you just here's your act. Tell people, he was doing it anyway, but I reinforced it. I go, here, just tell what I just said. Just said, like, I'm a guy, because everybody has your dream. They either want to be, you ever see not everybody, but a rock musician. They want to be in a band, but you can't make a living at it. You have a wife, you have kids. You want to be a stand-up, you want to be an actor. And I said, your story, I mean, the material that he has from his former career and from his kids, but coming to you from a person of his age makes him especially funny. And as a result, he's been doing very well with that. So I agree with you. I think that we need more people acting, writing, directing, who are just starting out in their 50s or older, because they're really not just starting out. They bring a lifetime of experience with them, and they have a special voice that you will never get from somebody that's 25 years old.
Yeah, like my kids' podcast, it's ranked top 1% globally, and for 3 years. And so I'm hopefully, knock on wood, that I will get my door open one day. And because the kids deserve to see a TV show or film out of those audios. So I'm hoping, I'm older, but I feel like it's like champagne. You got to wait a long time to open the champagne bottle, because that's when it's really, really good, right?
That's right. And people love stories of older. And by the way, none of us are old, but people like stories of
You look really
people
young.
that are.
Everyone, he looks really young.
That's great. So people
bribery.
Yeah, people love stories of. I hate to say it, but we're like the underdog. You get a little older, and people go, oh. But my show right now, which I'll talk to you in the next part.
Yeah, we're gonna go to part 2. Because
I'll tell you, it's exactly geared toward people. It's geared to everybody, but older people will just love it, and do. We have 29 million regular viewers. So
wow, 29 regular viewers, and we're gonna bring some more. So everyone listening, we're gonna talk about Over My Dead Body, and that's a comedy, right?
That is a comedy. It's a talk show, and I'll give you a 30-second hint.
Okay.
And the 30-second hint is that we travel the world to cemeteries of famous dead people, plug a mic into their headstone, and the host interviews them. And we never mention that they're dead. We just do some catching up. We want to see what Mae West and Steve Jobs are working on now, and what they think of current events. And
wow,
it's very funny. It's my fantasy show, and I plan to do it the rest of my life.
Oh wow, we've definitely got to talk, and we got to get to Johnny Carson. We've got we have so much more.
Will do that too.
Yeah, so everyone come back to part 2 with Steve Kunes. He has worked on, like I said, Love Boat, South Park, Cheers, Kate and Allie, and he's currently the executive producer of Over My Dead Body. And we've got to get to Johnny Carson, because, oh yeah. So come back to part 2. Thank you for listening, and we'll be right back with part 2.